very special episode of the Celtic Exchange as part of a Celtic State of Mind's Charity Weekender. The aim this weekend is to raise some much needed funds for the parishes of St Mary's Carlton and St Alphonsus at the Barras, and we're delighted to play our part in that. I'm your host Tino, and today I'm joined by Sinky and by James. Lads, welcome to the show. A good one today v Dundee United, and we'll spend a bit of time covering that before looking at some of the other key talking points surrounding Celtic at the minute. Sinky, I'll come to you first. Who's your favourite Celtic player just now, and why is it Thomas Peter Rogic?
Oh, absolute baller. I thought he was good against Hearts during the week, but today, he's a magician, the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Good stuff. James, what about yourself? How do you think it all went today at Tannadice? Are you happy enough with the performance?
Yeah, I mean, 3-0, 3 points. 3 points is all we're looking for in every single game, particularly in this really tight run we've got. But put in a good performance, scored a lot of nice goals. Could have scored a lot more, but nothing to complain about there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a solid 3 points, decent enough performance, and we'll get into that in a bit more detail. I do feel we've got levels to find, but as you said, Sinky, during the game, United offered very, very little, didn't they?
Nah, and when you look at the league table, you'd think they would be offering a bit more. I mean, when they played at Parkhead earlier in the season, they were more up for the fight, but today they weren't up to much at all. Quite
surprising.
They're quite disappointing, but it doesn't matter to us, does it really?
Yeah, you'll take it. So obviously goals from Rogic, Turnbull and Liam Scales, and plays for Liam Scales. Nice to see him get his goal. I think that's his first league involvement. He's played a bit in Europe, and I think he played Wraith Rovers in the League Cup, so good to see that. But that was enough to secure the win. But what I'd like to do is spend a bit of time on your man Rogic, Sinky. So I think we can clearly see. Who would have thought, a year ago or longer, that we'd be crying out for the return of Tom Rogic to the team? He picked up that hamstring knock against Hibs at Easter Road, but he's just been a real revelation under Ange, and he was exceptional again today, James.
I mean, he just ran the show. The things he's doing with the ball, you just don't expect. And like you say, when there was that potential move to Qatar, I wasn't going to step in his way. I just thought it was the right time. It seemed to have kind of ran its course at Celtic. And we've really, really missed him these last few weeks, so great to have him back.
It'd been madness from a footballing career point of view. Forget the money, but football-wise, that'd have been crazy to lose his talent to such a backwater league to
a young age.
He's an absolute ball. We have missed him the last few weeks, and it makes such a big difference. And under Ange, obviously, he's worked with him before with Australia, but you can see he's just enjoying his football. Some of his touches today, like he's pulling the ball in the sky, to drop the dead and the goal. We'll talk about the goal as well, but he makes some difference. He just fits in perfectly to that system and that fee in the middle of the park.
Yeah. So obviously his goal, the solo effort that got us off the mark, I think it was 19 minutes in today, and it was a very Rogic kind of goal. I mean, talk us through it, James, from your point of view.
It's funny because we're watching him and he knows exactly where he's going the minute he picks up the ball, and he's got 4 or 5 guys to go around, which he duly does. It's really just a solo slalom effort. I think was it 5 guys he went past?
I thought it was about 15 guys. Just old snake hips, just slalom through. But
it was the hips. But the second he's picked up the ball, he knows exactly where he's driving to, and he knows where the goal is. As you said, kind of after the game, the goal's not moving, so just keep your head straight, know where you're going, and he just gets his shot away, and the goal's got no chance.
Exactly. I think he's actually used Mulgrew as the last defender as his kind of marker, and he's just curled it around. The goals don't move, and I think he just knew exactly where to clip it. Sinky, how important do you think he's become to Ange's side? We weren't sure, A, if Rogic was going to feature at all, and B, if he'd entered like 90 minutes. He's now become, he went off after 70 the day, but generally speaking, he's a 90-minute man under Ange.
Especially missing Jota today, because it gives you that bit of magic, that bit of spark. Like, obviously he's cut inside for the goal, skinned 15 guys, but he's so important to the way we play now. He gives you that creativity. I mean, Turnbull kind of drifts in and out the games, but when he gets the ball, something's going to happen. Yeah. Some of the passes he's playing through today as well, but it just makes such a big difference. And I think the guys were a bit enjoying playing with him as well.
I think so.
Big time.
And we spoke a lot, James, in previous shows about the kind of midfield three and what it's going to be. So if it various, threes in there, whether it's McGregor's, Beaton's, McCarthy, who's dropped out again after doing pretty well the other week. Who do you think's the best three? Who would be your preferred three of the current personnel for those midfield roles?
It's McGregor in the defensive midfield role, Rogic, and a signing. That's what's needed.
And who?
A signing.
A signing, yeah. So just completely ignored my question about the current squad.
Yeah. I don't think there is the same level as McGregor and Rogic in the three at the moment. So we need to sign someone as simple as that. I think Turnbull has talent. maybe he's got a wee bit of James Forrest that he doesn't believe how much talent he's actually got.
Yeah, I really like Dave Turnbull. I seen a tweet before we came in here. I wish I remember the name or credit the fella, but he basically says, bury me on a David Turnbull shaped hill. I'm going all in on this guy. He's got the talent. And I replied saying, can you get me a Mikey Johnson shaped one as well? Because he's my guy. But there's no doubt these guys have got talent. David Turnbull scored a really decent goal today. But just before that, he's made a real mess of an easy one, hasn't he?
It was an absolute sitter. Lucky he got his goal after that. Turnbull, what I like about him, he doesn't hide. Do you mean he's involved in everything? And I think that's can sometimes go against him because he's involved and he takes a set plays. He's always shown for the ball. He's involved in everything. But I think James has got a good point. He could be doing with a bit of competition in there. I mean, he's played every game under him pretty much.
I think he's been involved in every game. I think it's maybe 28, 29 games now, and it's quite a lot. And listen, this is a guy who came back from a serious knee injury as well, and obviously he's had the season under Neil Lennon last year to find his feet. But he's still a very young man. I think he's 22 years of age, maybe there or thereabouts. And he's going to come in and out of things. And I'd love, as you say, James, if we had a suitable replacement to give him a bit of time. But we don't really have that guy just now.
No, and we'll come on to talk about January and stuff later on. But that's a real key area for me because you've got Kyogo making all those runs and he's not getting the supply. And that's a real fault. If we were supplying Kyogo more, we'd be getting more goals out of him. Yeah.
There's talk, we'll get to it in a bit, but there is talk about, is it Rio Hatate, if I'm pronouncing that correctly?
He plays everywhere.
He plays left back and also up front and also midfield. But there is a suggestion that he could be that driving kind of box-to-box midfielder, and maybe he's the guy. I do agree. I think Rodgers has been a real bonus because maybe, as I say, we weren't sure if he was going to be the guy. But I agree, it's McGregor in the 6, it's Rodgers up ahead of him, and it's somebody else, I think, in place of David Turnbull. So we'll see how that goes over time. Listen, he's taken his goal very well. How do you think that was?
Just a real presence of mind, to it was a good ball in for a start, but he's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
I think you picked out during the game, he's maybe thought he could score it in the first touch, and then he's realised, well, the goal's behind me and the goal's in front of me, I'll just tuck it away.
It's actually like a wee bit like that Di Canio one with the golden boots. I'm not quite comparing that, but y'all know the one at Pittodrie where he's lifted. Is it Nicky? Somebody the goal?
It's a world away from that because Di Canio meant every single inch of that.
But he's taken it pretty well, so pleased for that. Listen, a key talking point for the game, and it's definitely worth spending a bit of time on, was what I think we all agree was a red card for Callum Butcher. It's a horrendous tackle. The fact that we were chatting again before we come on here, the fact that the ref's given a yellow actually means he should be given a red. And what I mean by that is, if he's seen that tackle in its entirety, I mean, he's shin high, he's reckless, he's in at pace, he's got to go, hasn't he?
Well, maybe there's a wider discussion on this that you might have planned, but for me, it ties in with 2 offsides that were given against Celtic that weren't offsides during the game. One for Kyogo and one for
Mikey Johnson,
aye. And that ties into Crawford Allen being on the radio on Saturday. So is there pressure now on linesmen to think, well, wait a minute, I'm going to get a hard time if I call this wrong, so I'll err on the side of caution. So is Don Robertson thinking, if I send this guy off and it turns out it was a yellow card, am I going to get a hard time? It was a shocking challenge and a straight red all day.
Yeah,
it's interesting. That pressure usually comes from managers, doesn't it? To make decisions.
Not from your gaffer.
I know, in-house. I know, it's putting pressure on your own team.
If you compare it to Ryan Porteous' challenge in Aribo, so Butcher is off his feet, he's reckless, not in control, he's over the ball, he makes stud contact on Turnbull's shin. It's a horror challenge.
Yeah, we'll definitely get to Crawford Allen and his nonsense and a wee bit. It's definitely an item on the agenda. But yeah, I wonder if it's just putting pressure on referees, unfair, on whether it's Don Robertson today or anyone else, to just make sure you don't give Celtic anything too lenient after the nonsense during the week. Yeah. We'll get to it, so we'll leave it for now. We'll certainly pick that one up. And listen, it's hard to find a negative in a 3-0 win. Overall delighted with that today, and it could have been a tricky one. And you're thinking, away to Tannadice, they've had a decent start to the season. I don't know where they are, maybe 4th in the league, something like that. And you're thinking that could be pretty difficult. As you say, Sinky, they've offered very little. But from a Celtic point of view, there's also been a lot of wasted chances. And 3-0 is great, but would 4, 5, 6 have given us a real boost, getting into a real heavy schedule?
Big time does they produce that bit of magic, and the game goes on and on and on. You're missing these chances. Yeah. It can go either way. I mean, they can get lucky, break up the park. They didn't offer much, as we know, but the longer it goes on, and we're very, very wasteful. I mean, that was 3 going on 10 at least today with some of the chances you missed. We're just not clinical enough, and that could bite you in the backside.
It could at some point. Listen, it looks like it's going to be a neat title race, and it could potentially go all the way. And geez, the nerves would be shot to pieces if it goes to goal difference on a final day. But it could. You can see how tight it is. And I think at the moment Celtic are maybe 2 or 3 goals to the good, maybe more after today. But it could have been, so many more. I mean, I've noted that Turnbull's guilty, Kyogo had a couple of really decent chances. James Forrest has come onto one on his left foot and made all sorts of mess of it.
Actually get injured.
And Abada's missed a really decent chance going forward. So, I mean, does it matter, James, in the context of the 3 points? Obviously not. But for confidence and for goal difference, is it important that we're putting these to bed?
Angel, I think it matters in terms of what he's watching and what he's coaching into these players. He's creating the football that creates those chances, and we're not taking them. But I think he'll be quite circumspect about it as well, that we're putting a lot of weight onto Kyogo himself. Johnson's in and out of the team. Forrest only back from injury. I think he's maybe sees a bit of tiredness throughout the team, for guys that have been playing a lot of football. So I don't think he'll be getting, hairdryer streaming on Monday morning stuff. But he won't want to see chances go a begging like that. Having created the great football to put the chance on a plate, I think it's just a January situation. We need to give Kyogo a bit of a hand up front.
Yeah, he definitely needs a break. And again, just you're cutting right into my agenda before I'm ready for these points. But we'll talk about January and what the priorities are. And I do think Kyogo needs a hand, because if he, God forbid, he picks up an injury like Jota, but if he had to come out of the team, what's the options here? We've got Giacomakis on the treatment table, and you've got Albion Ayeti, who I think was on the bench today. That is not acceptable. Imagine having to get into this December run with Ayeti as your number 9.
Recall the Griff.
Oh, my goodness. James, please, you're ruining my Sunday. Obviously, there was some changes to the team. So Carter Vickers comes back in. He missed the game for personal reasons, whatever that may be, and hope everything's okay there. But him and Starfelt have lined up at the back. I think it was a pretty steady afternoon all in all. Starfelt did have a moment just after the goal where he picked up a silly yellow. Notably, of course, though, Taylor comes back in at left back and Juranovic at right back. And I think that's the first time those two have paired off as the right and left backs. How do you think they've done?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fine. Taylor, I just think, is a limited footballer. A few things today where he just did Taylory type things. Taylory things where he's got himself in a good position and then he makes a bad pass. He just, it's very harsh, but he just looks like Kilmarnock's left back to me. He's never managed to shake that image. Yeah. Juranovic wasn't actually great, but sloppy passing from him.
I think so.
A good player, very, very keen to get forward, very able to get forward. Yeah. Didn't quite link up with Jamesy, and then didn't really link up with Abada. So not a great game from his standard, I would say.
All right, for your second choice right back, he's done no
big boots to fill from Tony Ralston.
Do you know what? Like with Juranovic, it was weird. I mean, he did one of these games where he was just kind of in and out of the game. I don't know, like, because he's obviously moving forward. We expected more because he's moving his natural position, and I was expecting a wee bit more from him today. But for both of them, it's a steady game. Having Taylor back gives you a wee bit of balance, but as James says, he is a very, very limited player. The amount of times where he's very wasteful in possession, he goes back the way quite a lot, and he's definitely he can't do the inverted fullback gig.
Yeah. And listen, he's first game back after injury, so you never know. I mean, the way I look at it as well is we've seen how certain players have evolved and developed under Ange, Ralston being the prime example. Maybe Taylor could be that guy, or do you think it's just he's got his limit and he's maybe just about there?
I think he can, Ange can make him a better player than he was when Ange came into the club, and I think we've maybe seen a bit of that already. I don't know how much further he can go.
Maybe kind of reach the ceiling.
He was missed 3 months, so in that time, obviously, he's not been able to work with him. So
yeah,
we'll see how he goes. But I think in January, we'll talk about January in a minute. I think our left backs are going to be a priority.
I think you're right. Moving further up the field, I've stated many times, and I've had all sorts of grief about my fondness for Mikey Johnson. I just think, and listen, I hope I don't sound arrogant here, I just think if you know football, you know he's a talent. You know that he's got ability. You can see that he's a very good footballer. I think we were speaking this afternoon during the game about some recent articles we've read and kind of picked up on that Celtic had such high hopes for Mikey Johnson. He was a real, when he was coming through the academy, they just had such belief that he was going to go on and hit the dizzy heights. And he's been seriously unlucky. He's picked up some bad injuries and different things, but there's no good looking back the way now. He is now 23 years of age. All of a sudden, due to Jota's injury, he's going to get a run. It looks like maybe the next 2, 3, 4, 5 games he might feature, a lot more prominently. And it's now over to Mikey Johnson. It's up to him to prove himself and show exactly what he's got. I was so desperate for him to do it today, and he showed flashes today, but over the 90, pretty average, I would say.
That's exactly it, flashes. And I'm not, the Mikey Johnson backer that you are to that level. Nobody is that. Who could be?
I back him more than he's more than.
But see, when he gets on the ball, you're going, come on, Like, let's see it, because we know you've got it.
Yeah.
But it was flashes. You know, he put the ball in for Forrest, for example. So he was doing a lot of good creative stuff. It's just lack of consistency, lack of confidence, lack of belief in your own ability.
I know. He must hear the fans' rumblings as well about his performance. He's always come on.
I think the fans are trying to get behind him, but
I don't think so.
I
find that a very negative space with Mikey Johnson. I think it's unfairly negative. If you don't rate him as a player, that's fine. But some of the vitriol online, particularly Twitter, which is no great place to be at the best of times, but some of the noise against him, I get it if you don't rate him as a player, but there's been real, he's made of glass, he's useless, get him out and all that stuff, and other, more statements like that. I just think it's poor.
To touch on your point, the next 5 or 6 games will be, if he can stay injury-free, which is a big if, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he can stay injury-free, gets a run of games, he's obviously got all come back in, but this is a big month for Mikey Johnson. This is
biggest month of his career.
This is probably his big chance, because he's fully fit, he's going to get a run of games, and then we'll see what he does. This is his opportunity.
I think so. I think it's a real important time in his Celtic career just now, and I'm just so desperate for him to succeed in, and I hope he does. Another guy that we've got to cover, James, on behalf of our absent colleague Miff. So Miff is such a fan of James Forrest. Miff himself, obviously housewife's favourite. Shame he can't get house husband's favourite as well. Shame he can't be here today.
Missing a chance to get in camera to
I
see
know.
Miff. Yeah.
Lovely, handsome man. Anyway, so Miff can't be here today, but he will bang the drum anytime asked about James Forrest. He's a huge fan. And listen, the majority of Celtic fans are, you can't argue with his CV and, the medals he's picked up and, the various accolades. But he also showed today just why we get frustrated with James Forrest at times. James, you mentioned it was a cutback from Mikey Johnson in the first half. Forrest comes on to it, and it's just there to be tucked away in the left, and he's just got it all wrong.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that. There was a lot of other things as well. It is this, I said it just last week, it's the lack of self-belief. I think, if James believed in his talents as much as, I think he is a really talented guy, but there's so much hitting the first man, skying things out, just getting the ball took off you in dribbles. You're a Celtic winger, you should be able to dribble past guys, and so many times he just loses it in his feet. The chance missed was just very poor. But yeah, I'm well stated as to what I think about James, and I don't see it changing. That's the problem.
I think he's not waiting to fight you when you get home.
the gates.
Yeah.
He's not advancing. He's not progressing.
No,
he's just thinking, I've got all my stats. I've got my CV. I don't need any more.
Yeah, I don't think he's he lacks effort and application. I just think, I don't know, he's obviously a winger who's now 30, 31, and pace is crucial for a winger, and I think he's maybe lost a wee bit of that. He's been unlucky. He's missed almost a full season for injury, and he divides opinion, and today almost in 45 minutes or so epitomises why. Sinky, obviously, Abada came in for him. How do you feel he's doing at the moment?
I don't see much difference in Abada. I mean, he's been in and out before he's coming back. I think he's been... As we're talking about winners, right? So we mentioned Mikey Johnson, we mentioned Abada and Forrest. At Celtic, and a winger is going to get a lot of the ball all the time, and they're always up for scrutiny, right? Always. But Abada just seems to be just going through the motions quite a lot of the time. Like when he first came out of the team, his first few games, he was driving at people coming inside. Now he seems to get the ball, thinks about it, and just gives it to someone else. Yeah. He's not really setting the header. Like
he looks afraid to take guys on. At one point, he got the ball on the right hand side, and he was facing up to Charlie Mulgrew 1-on-1. And I said, "That's just perfect. If you're a winger and you get the chance to stand up Charlie Mulgrew and show some trickery, it's great." And I think he took these out. I can't remember how that one fared out, or played out. But I don't think he took him on. I think he ended up just passing it back or something. And as you say, Sinky, for a guy who, when he came in, was so confident. We were there, James, when he scored against Midtjylland, game 1, scored the first competitive goal under Ange, and he then went on to score, as he gets 6, 7, maybe 8 goals for Celtic and various assists. He was up here in terms of confidence and performance levels, and I just wonder why he's gone so far back since then.
It's interesting because when he came in, he was very direct. And it seems he had no fear at all. He was 20, when he was 19, 20 now. He's fearless, direct, but that seems to he seems to apart that, and I don't know, it just seems like he's going through the motions. I don't know, it's weird.
I wonder how much the structure that Ange plays, first game you're not getting too much coaching into the guy, as he's getting coached as the week goes on, and say, well, that's not actually what we want you to be doing. Why? I wouldn't know. But is it something the coach that's saying, don't take that move because percentage chance XYZ, it's better if we create a move with your teammates or something. his game seems to have changed. And why would you change your game yourself when your game was really working?
I don't think Ange is the kind of coach that would ever discourage wingers taking men on. I wouldn't think so. He is huge on that. I think he loves that, attacking style of play, and I think wingers are such an important part of what Ange believes in. So I don't think he'll have discouraged them in any way, shape or form, but for whatever reason, it can be a variety of reasons. Yeah. He's in a new country, he's a young man, maybe he's not settled in the way he'd hoped. There's all sorts of things that we maybe don't know, but what we do know and what we can see is a regression in his form and his performances. I don't know if James Forrest picked up an injury. He was holding his hamstring at one point, and that might mean that going from Jota on the left and Forrest on the right, we're going to go with Mikey Johnston on the left and Abad on the right. And that could be quite challenging for us over these, we've got 7 games left in the month of December.
I don't think there's much between Abad and Forrest at the moment. I don't think there's much of muchness. So it's the left is the big issue. And you've already told us Johnson's going to shine.
He will set the heather light on one side, but we do need something on the other side. Just last kind of point before we move on from Dundee United. Liam Scales has come in. As mentioned, that's his first Scottish Premiership involvement. He's played a couple of games in Europe and different things. How do you think he done? It was a fairly short cameo, but he obviously got his goal, which will be a great boost for him. How do you think he played?
I think he played as well, if not better, as any time I've seen him. I can't understand why he's not getting a chance where Montgomery's maybe had a few starts or coming on during the week and things like that. I don't know with Scales, and no one can really know with Scales because we've not seen enough of him. I thought he was a wee bit clumsy at the left back after his goal, a couple of wee slack passes here and there. But, he needs 90 minutes under his belt. So, hopefully we see a bit in the coming weeks. But, yeah, took his goal well. There's a lot of work to be done there, and presence of mind, keep the ball down, get it placed. But did really well there. But he's always impressed me when he's come on.
Yeah, the third goal's a very good goal. So Beaton's found a real decent switch of play from the centre out to the right-hand side. Abad has taken it, in his stride and just cut it back. I think the cutback was probably for Kyogo, but it's gone behind and Scales has come on and he's tucked it away nicely. So it's a really decent goal, Sinky. What I was going to ask about was near Beaton, the starter of that move. I believe he made his 250th appearance for Celtic today. He's approaching 10 years at the club, which is crazy. Do you think he's a useful guy for Ange to have around?
Well, we discussed it last week. He is, and when he off injured against Leverkusen, I think everyone's going
disaster.
We've missed him, and you ever thought? We mentioned that in the pod the other week, but you never thought to yourself we're missing him. But he's a good guy to have around. Definitely not a centre half. Right? We can all agree on that. But in that, for backup for a number 6 for McGregor, absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it? We've talked about Tom Rogic, we've briefly mentioned Tony Ralston and Near Beaton. These guys have been in the club for several years. And had somebody told you, so Ange came in, I believe, on the 10th of June, or he was appointed on the 10th of June. If somebody told you his character, Postecoglou, is going to come in and Rogic, Ralston and Beaton will be mainstays, you'd be seriously worried, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. We talk about Liam Scales, so obviously you thought he was going to get around because Taylor was out for 3 months. But because of the form of Ralston and Janovic, you couldn't get near the team.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, all these nearly men became kind of stalwarts in the team now.
Yeah, definitely. So what we'll do, we'll move on from United. Obviously, most important thing, in fact, for all games at the moment is getting the 3 points. Managed to do that and a few goals to the good, and overall, a decent day at the office. What I'd like to do now is spend some time on Thursday night, the Hearts game. So I was there with yourself, James, and that was the first of 9 games that we'll play in the month of December. And obviously there's some kind of tough fixtures to look forward to, and we'll cover that in a bit of detail. It was nervy towards the end, wasn't it? But overall, Celtic were well worthy of the points, weren't they?
Absolutely. I caught the highlights when I got in kind of late on Thursday night. It was kind of extended 10-minute highlight package. And it was all Celtic, bar a few things. And the stats bear that out. But in the radio after the game, you'd think that was a real, nervy, tight game. I know the scoreline might have been, but the game wasn't. It was all Celtic. And like I say, the stats bear that out. So it was all of the noise about refereeing decisions because it was something that, for me, and I've watched it dozens of times, I still can't see if Kyogo's offside or not because Scotland won't put the technology in to let us make that call. Yeah. And if you can't tell after having watched that so many times, then the attacker gets the benefit of the doubt. So there's no debate on it. It's move on, but Scottish football doesn't want to move on.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems that since the game, it's almost like the whole of Scottish football, or at least certain factions of the media and different people have been in uproar simply because Celtic got the benefit of the doubt from a goal that might, and I seriously stress, might have been offside. It's inconclusive at this moment in time. But the narrative from guys like Chris Boyd and others is that all of a sudden it was 100% off, and Crawford Allen seems to have come out now and backed that up. and he's come out and kind of made various statements about the game. And that's a guy. Why are we hearing from Crawford Allen now? Right? What about? I don't want to go all mad conspiracy theory here, but
what about Abada? Against Hearts at Tynecastle, of course. Johnson.
And Robbie Nielsen's delighted to talk about all the poor decisions the other night. Neil Lennon, poor decisions the other night, but he doesn't want to talk about the poor decisions at Tynecastle. So why is Crawford Allen choosing this moment in time to come out? Is there more to that, James? Like, what do you see from that?
Celtic will need to have a real sharp mind on this to understand what's going on if they don't want to let that unravel to our detriment. Something's happening for sure in Scottish football. There's a market getting put down and it's not going to be to Celtic's benefit. So Celtic, the company, the club, whatever, they need to be on this to understand what's going on and ask the questions of the SFA as to why that guy's out now, why he wasn't out when Rangers scored an offside goal against Motherwell.
Yeah.
And I mean an offside goal, not a nearly.
Yeah, you need the consistency, don't you, Sinky?
You do. And I've never seen an outcry. Like, I don't know, I've talked about conspiracy theories. Like, there's bad decisions every weekend, but it just seems that this offside goal, partly offside goal, has caused absolute uproar, and it seems to be an us thing, which is you expect it.
Maybe so. And as we touched on earlier on there, it does now put pressure. So Crawford Allen has come out and he's criticised Bobby Madden. He said, maybe Bobby got that one wrong in different things. So now today's linesmen, for example, they're thinking, I don't want the big boss guy saying that I've had a dodgy game, so if in doubt, I'll just flag that as offside because I don't need the grief. And all of a sudden,
it was both linesmen. It wasn't one linesman twice, it was both.
Yeah, a couple of decisions in each half. And you just wonder if Celtic are going to fall foul now of people being so afraid to make a mistake that they're going to give decisions against us, which would otherwise have been fine.
But that if you're at your job and your boss has been on the radio the day before saying, don't make any stupid calls, and there's something that if you don't call it, you're not going to get a hard time. If you do call it, you're not going to get a hard time. It's like, which way do you go? If you call that offside against Celtic, then you won't get a hard time. If you call it in Celtic's favour, you're not going to have hard time.
Yeah. You do hope that Celtic would be at least asking the question, if not, out in public, behind the scenes. Can someone from Celtic make a call and ask for a bit of time with Crawford Allen and say, can you just explain yourself here as to why you've chosen to come out at this moment in time when... And they could cite the dozen or so examples of where there's been other poor decisions against Celtic. So,
Rooster 67 is available to help.
Yeah, that's a well-known blogger that we're close with. But yeah, there's some funny decisions, and I just think it was strange. And I'll just leave it at that. I'll just say it's strange that Crawford Allen has chosen to come out in such a fashion. Anyway, going back to more positive things from the Hearts game, Carol Starfelt returned to the team. That was the first time since, I think, Livingston on the 30th of October, where he'd done his hamstring. And he picked up man of the match after a really solid performance over the 90 minutes. I'll come to you first, James, because you made a call early on Starfelt that you thought he wasn't fit for
early.
purpose.
It was moderately early.
I think it was about 4 or 5 games in.
No, it was well in.
Okay, maybe I'll give you 6 games. But he was a real solid performer against Hearts the other night. What is your take on him now? I mean, again, somebody made a point on Twitter recently about can we not give guys 4, 5, 6 months before judging them. And I think we all fall in that trap where, and I certainly do it myself, after 4 or 5 games, you're going, you'll never make it at Celtic. He's a dud, he's this, he's that. And I think a lot of us have maybe raised question marks over Starfelt, but what do you feel now after his performance against Hearts?
Yeah, I mean, you're making the calls based on what you're seeing with your eyes both then and now. And what I was seeing with my eyes then was a guy who wasn't comfortable in his role, and he's meant to be this... Told us he was pacey, he wasn't being pacey. I stand by my call at the time. He was playing very poorly and it didn't look like it was going to happen for him. He was outstanding on Thursday against Hearts, and I said it during the game and after the game. I was really impressed. I think he's come back fitter. He's come back more focused.
Yeah.
He's maybe just had a bit more time to spend with the coaches. So, any Celtic player that goes on to play well for Celtic and proves me wrong, delighted.
Yeah. I mean, good players can go through bad spells. I think that's just part of football. And do you think that was maybe a case of Starfelt finding his feet in those early days? Again, you've got to appreciate it.
He was straight in. He was straight in.
For the airport.
Against Hearts, ironically.
Against Hearts.
But he's a guy who was playing his football in the last couple of years in Russia. So you've gone from Rubin Kazan to Celtic. And is it maybe unrealistic to expect guys just to click into play and go and get 8, 9, 10 out of 10 every week from a move like that?
I think we expect that. You expect, I think what did it help was the other signings hit the ground running.
Labada had it at the time,
and Kyogo, they all hit the ground running. They haven't. Some players take a bit to settle in, and he looks like one of their players. I think the spell out has probably helped him a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, James is right, he's come back and he looks more focused. He was outstanding against Hearts. He was intercepting everything, reading the game great. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, I think when it comes to just straightforward defending, he is excellent. He's a physical guy and very strong in the tackle, doesn't lose many headers. Carter Vickers the same actually. And I just wonder if Angie's system is so unique, so it would take a bit of time for even the best player out there to get used to that and change their style of play, because defenders by the name, their job is to defend, and all of a sudden he's saying to Carter Vickers on the right and Starfelt on the left, I know you're just defenders, but come on out now and link up the play and be the the link between yourself and Callum or whoever's on the right and left. And you're just asking guys to do a very different thing, which is fine, and I'm sure they're happy to do so, but it's natural it would take a bit of time for them to get used to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that system alone, but the thing is with the Angie's system, when you're playing centre half, you're exposed quite a lot, especially when they break up the park.
Yeah.
So it takes a bit of getting used to that. And getting the country, playing alongside different partnerships, obviously, Captain Vickers and stuff like that. He's played with Stephen Welsh as well, so it takes a bit of getting used to. But there's signs of it. There's signs of a player. I mean, we're all quick to judge, but as James said, I'm happy enough to criticise somebody and to prove me wrong later down the line. Yeah. I'll take that every day.
Fair enough. James, do you think Carter Vickers and Starfelt are the best centre half pair at the club?
Yeah, I think that's quite steady together. I think it particularly helps Carter Vickers when Starfelt is there, because he can sit back and let Starfelt come out with the ball. He's the one that's taking things forward and making that link to the midfield. We saw when Starfelt was out that Carter Vickers wasn't enjoying that. It's just not part of his game. He's a big unit. He's maybe just not quite as mobile. Once he gets going, he can move a bit. It just takes a bit to get the engine going.
Up a wee bit, and it just
a wee bit. So I think they're pretty solid and settled. And the longer they can keep that pairing together, the better. Yeah.
Now, I've asked the question in previous weeks, but I'd like to do it today on this show and put it to you first, Linky. Chris Jullien will hopefully be back from injury pretty soon. Does he slot right in? And if so, who for?
I don't think he does.
No,
I don't.
7 million man, Chris Jullien.
I know. Do you know something? I like the big man, but he's been out. That's pretty much a year now, isn't it?
He's not played this calendar year.
He's not played this like a full year out, and judging by Angie's comments, when he was asked the question about him, he was quite blunt in his response. So there's been quite a lot of whisperings about like his career's finishing. I really hope it's not. But I think that they two are probably going to be your two centre halves, Carter Vickers and Starman. I can't see Jullien coming back, and if he does, it'll be like a wee cameo here and there just to bring him back. But the thing is with Ange, he doesn't rush players back. He's done it once when he brought McGregor and Kyogo back against Leverkusen, but he seems to take the time with Forrest. He took his time with him and gradually brought him back. So I think Jullien's a bit off it, and I don't see him coming straight back in.
And he seemed a bit spiky last week when he was asked about it, because for the last number of press conferences or media conferences, he's been asked a question, he's saying, yep, after the international break or whenever.
Ask me again tomorrow.
And it's gone October, November, now it's gone to stop asking me, I just don't know. I mean, I think you're quite clear, James, but you don't see Jullien fitting in, do you?
The Starfelt that I slagged off earlier in the season, I think he can replace him. The Starfelt that played against Hearts, he can. If he's still at the club, then I think having the three of those guys rotating, and Welsh as well, if we're going to be fair, because he played very well the other night too. So if you had the four of those guys rotating for your centre-half positions, which, there's a lot of football getting played if you're a Celtic player. My own analysis of it with that spikiness is, and I'd heard this in the summer as well, is that Jullien doesn't want to be there. His pals are away and he'll go in January. So he'll coast it out. He's maybe even fit now, but he's saying, I'm not quite ready. He'll go in January, and that's fine. You're the three of those guys. Starfelt and Carter Vickers.
And also, like all good podcasters, you retain your right to change your opinion at any given moment should things not.
Stay alert.
Good thing this hasn't been recorded. But I think it is interesting about Jullien. I'm a big fan. I know you don't particularly rate him. You're not quite sure of his style. He scored some seriously important goals for Celtic, and I think what a lot of people do agree on is he seems an Ange kind of player. He's comfy with the ball at feet, so he's maybe a less effective defender than Starfelt and Carter Vickers, but he is a guy that can start the moves from the back, and that's why I think he could be very good.
One of the things that stands out is like he's out in physical battles. It was Dykes, remember the game against Livingston? He get bullied, and for a big guy, a big bully centre half, he get actually toe-ragged off Dykes, and it happened a couple of times. I know it was a boy for Aberdeen as well. Had him on. So every time he goes up against a physical challenge, he's not your man. I don't believe.
Yeah, you need to be both for Ange.
I think Dyke's got his move to QPR purely based on
I probably did.
Willie and Gillian for a couple of games. But yeah, well, we're very interesting. As I say, we now don't know if it's next week, next month, next year for Julian. So, we'll keep a close eye on that and we'll see how he fares. Just speaking of injuries, that they're stacking up, obviously, against Hearts. We had Jota, Ralston and Welsh, all kind of having to get substituted. And Giakoumakis is currently on the sidelines. And, it's become a bit of a cliched question, but do you think, James, the current squad can make it through these December fixtures successfully?
There's no question on it. They've just got to. So you just got to find the mental resolve to get through. I mean, you've seen guys slotting in there today and doing really well, and coming away with a big win. So if he's got the squad ready mentally, that when you get your chance, take your chance. Scales, for example, coming in pretty much from the cold, but gives Taylor a rest, gets his goal. He'll feel good about that. So, yeah, I think they can, and I think they have to.
Yeah, I think it's just the prospect of any more key injuries. Jota was the big worry, wasn't it? And when he's gone off the other night and he's pulled up, you're thinking,
straight away,
do not need Jota to get an hamstring injury. If Kyogo, Sinky or McGregor get injured, that's a worry.
I know we got the squad to actually a good place. See, before obviously the Hearts game, with people coming back, obviously Big Tam come back, Beaton come back as well.
Forrest is back.
Forrest is back. We're getting all these bodies back, and then what happens on Thursday? You lose the three.
Yeah.
But
three and four subs.
Exactly. I know. And going back to the game itself, that kind of killed the flow of the game. We managed to see it out, but as James says, we just need to plough through and what you call it with the team you've got, I suppose.
That's going to use a different analogy there.
It's a family show, Martin.
Fair enough. It's you've got to be careful. In terms of the squad, I mean, even just looking today at the bench, you've got Baines the goalie. Barkas is nowhere near our squads, by the way.
Yeah, is he?
I think he's just
back to
he's been given it extended leave or early Christmas. But Baines was the goalie. Montgomery, Scales, McCarthy, Beaton, Abada, and Ayeti. And there's some okay quality in there, but it is light, isn't it?
It's when you see the injuries that we've got just now that we've just picked up, it's when you start to see it's starting to get threadbare. Like you said, when Thursday wasn't so threadbare, once you lose those 3 picks and you're bumping up 3 more guys on the bench, you go, well, it's getting a bit tight. So, yeah, signings are required. There's a transfer window coming up.
Yeah, I've mentioned it on last week's podcast, but it's a huge December for us in terms of the on-park stuff. January's also huge in terms of what we do and the transfer market and who we pick up. So the latest news this morning, I think it comes from, is it Dan Orowitz, the Japanese Times journalist, who's quite good on Twitter. He's quite prominent and he's followed Dan's journey. So he's mentioned there's a triple move for J-League players. So we've heard about Daisen Maeda for quite a long time now, and more recently Ryo Hatate, if I'm pronouncing that right, which I'm probably not. The next guy has even trickier. I think it's Yosuke Ideguchi. So I'll put you in the spot, Sinky. What do you know about him?
I've got to sign the big chat manager. He's a player.
So it's the reinforcements we need. And these do, by all accounts, Maeda and Hatate, they're already done deals. There's some sort of prospect of getting them in on loan in January with a view to a permanent signing in the summer. Maeda's a striker. Hatate, as we mentioned, is quite a versatile player. And I believe Ideguchi's a centre mid. We're crying out for reinforcements in it. On paper, it does seem these guys will be good additions if we get them.
Yeah, particularly the flexibility they give you. I think Maeda can play a lot as well in different areas, but Hatate's got that real versatility. Ideguchi, less about, but I didn't manage to pronounce his name, so that's all right.
You think you have?
I think I have.
I'm leaving it to it.
No.
Backy one will keep me right on that one.
Yeah,
but the issue I've got with that is I'm not seeing the areas where I think we need most. Left back and striker for me is where I think we're lightest.
Yeah, so I was going to catch it a wee bit later on, but might as well cover this just now. So out with those 3 J-League guys, what would you say are the priorities for the January window? So as I mentioned, there are a striker and 2 midfielders there. Do we need another striker? I think we need backup for Kyogo. He's not good enough. And Giakoumakis
maybe
remains
he'll get his chance, but we don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, Sinky, who would the priorities be for you?
Definitely. So as we mentioned, definitely a striker, 100%, centre mid. Versatile centre mid, somebody can play probably all the 3 positions, and a left back's a must, an absolute must. That should be we've said it during the summer as well, before the window shut in September. But we need a left back, definitely.
What are you at in that, James?
Jota probably agrees very strongly. if you're a left back that can link up with him, then we'd get a lot more activity on that side of the pitch,
Yeah. Do you think we need another wide man at this moment in time? So Jota and Forrest, I think, would be the first choices. With Johnston Abada as the backup. Is that good enough? Maybe.
It's all about just running a P&L sheet, running your budget. It'd be nice, but we can probably get by without it. Probably.
We'll see. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll look at those fixtures. So December, we've talked about it recently. 9 key fixtures in December. We're now 2 down, so 2 wins. Hearts, Dundee United, great. So we've got that in the bag. 7 fixtures to go. What I'll do, I'll cover the fixtures first of all. You can let me know your thoughts. And it's a pretty tough run over the next, 3 and a bit weeks, between now and the 29th of December. Then we've obviously got the big game getting into January. And it's going to be a tall order to win all these games, but I suppose it's the expectation and it's how you all feel as Celtic fans that I actually think on paper, there's no reason why we shouldn't be winning 6 of the 7. I'm going to take Betis out of the equation, but let me run through them for you. So we've got Betis on Thursday night at Celtic Park. We've then got Motherwell, Sunday the 12th of December. Ross County, Wednesday the 15th of December. Happy birthday, Sinky, on that day. Then it's a League Cup final against Hibs on the 19th at Hampden. Then we've got St Mirren away, Wednesday 22nd. St Johnstone away, Sunday 26th, and then back to Celtic Park for Hibs on Wednesday 29th December. I mean, looking at those fixtures, James, as I say, we can take Betis out of the equation. Where do you see us tripping up? I know it's tough in terms of it's a relentless run. 9 games in a month is tough, but what are the games there that Celtic shouldn't go and take care of?
Yeah, it's not the fixtures in isolation, it's the condensed nature of the calendar, really. That's what you're looking at, so many games in such a short period. The only way I look at it is if Celtic want to be serious contenders for the title and win this title in May, those are all games you've got to win. So I'm not particularly daunted by the fixtures themselves. It's just a matter of the pace of them all and can you avoid any more injuries in that period. So Celtic should be going into all those games looking for 3 points and taking all 3 points. Yeah.
What about yourself, Stinky? What do you think? I mean, is it any banana skins there?
I think we're in good form. Potentially there could be a wee trophy in the middle of that,
of course,
as well, which will give you a lift.
Yeah.
So there's some Hibs is potentially a tough game, but any away fixture, and James mentioned the condensed fixtures. December's always a tough month. You see all the managers moaning about it, especially starting to pick up injuries here and there. But if the squad can get through December, start to get bodies back, with the form we're in, there's nothing stopping us. I think we could get a clean sweep.
I think we could, I've no doubt that's what the target will be for Ange and the team, and they will never come out and say that. But they must have a belief internally that they can go and take care of all of these games.
I say the most important thing, and James touched on it quite a lot, is the 3 points, right? Keeping ourselves as close to our rivals. Getting that game in January is imperative. So there's nothing stopping us with the form we're in, and the way we're playing, and the guys that are coming in seem to be doing a alright job for us. Yeah. But I think we can get through December a clean sweep.
Yeah, and I think that is the priority, isn't it, James? Just to remain in contention as we approach the 2nd of January.
Yeah, and Miff's thing all the way through for the start of the season was to be on the coattails of anyone who might be at the top of the league and see if you can turn them over shortly after that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, with a break of the ball, it could go much better in our favour. We could be on top before that game comes. Myself and Paddy wanted it. It might well happen. There's no fixtures to get it done, so you never know.
You say about breaking the ball. I wonder if Crawford Allen could have a say in what might happen. But
he's getting involved.
Yeah. I mean, what do you see as the kind of toughest fixtures? I think you've mentioned we've obviously got Hibs twice, right? League Cup final. But listen, let's focus on the league stuff, right? Because that is the priorities. So Motherwell, Ross County, St Mirren, St Johnstone, Hibs, and Hibs is at Celtic Park. To win league titles, you need to and you should be winning those games, shouldn't you?
Yeah, you should be. I like Jim Goodwin as a manager. I think he's a really smart young manager. Very on the ball, reads teams well. So that could be a tricky one. Get away to Love Street there. Callum Davidson as well. That is probably the toughest, because if he just puts these 2 big banks of 5 in a McDermott Park, that's hard to break down, and it's your job to break it down. But it could be a horrible game of football. Yeah,
that's on Boxing Day. People will be feeling a bit sleepy, Sinky, a wee bit lethargic. It could be a tricky one, couldn't it?
Too much festive cheer. That's a tricky one. Boxing Day fixture. Obviously, the players are obviously the modern day players don't really have a Christmas, do they? So
I don't know. The night before.
I mean, they don't obviously look after themselves and stuff. But St Mirren away will be a tough fixture. But James mentioned like St Johnstone. If they set up the same way they set up against us,
it's horrible.
You talk about football. It's just that's tough, and we've got the players. I mean, I know that they talk about this low block, but you think St John's would be crying out for the points, will give us a goal, but they seem to shut up shop against us all the time.
Yeah, most do.
Yeah.
In fact, Dundee United is the first time I've seen a team not do that in their own park.
Yeah.
Hearts were the double defensive on Thursday, as much as Nielsen was saying he's going to have a go, he didn't.
No.
So it's just the way that teams play against Celtic now, and it's their job to break it down.
Yeah, Craig Gordon wasting time with a bye kick in the third minute tells you that Hearts weren't going to have a go at it. I need to stop doing this. What's happening there? Let me shake that off. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how Celtic fare over these fixtures. And I thought it was interesting, Sinky, you made the point that Rodgers' goal, we've run out comfy 3-0 winners today, but Rodgers' goal is the one that unlocks that in 19 minutes. If it goes to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, half time, and you don't get that goal, that's when the anxiety creeps in. And I think we've seen from some of the frustrating games at Celtic Park, Livingston, Dundee United, most teams seem reluctant to open out against us because the moment they do, Celtic can really take care of it. So I think a lot of our success in December will depend on how Motherwell, Ross County, St Mirren, St Johnstone, Hibs approach the game.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you can't see anything but managers coming in, playing really defensive football. Jim Goodwin will try and play a bit of football because he's a football-minded guy, but he saw to his cost what happened at Parkhead. So you couldn't blame a guy like that from learning his lesson and being at least more defensive than he was last time out. It's, we've got to be the footballing team that unlocks these defences. Yeah, the onus is on us, and it's our job.
I can see someone getting a right hiding. See the chances we're creating, and if it all clicks into place, someone's going to get a tank.
I think today could and should have been 5 or 6.
Easily.
Definitely should have
Easily.
been. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll spend just a very short bit of time here on Betis. So as I'd mentioned there, it's a dead rubber and it's meaningless in the bigger picture. We'll go into the Conference League and we'll see who we face up against. And is it not till February, actually? January, February? We'll find out. But obviously, the Betis game, it gives Ange an opportunity to maybe give some guys some game time that might not otherwise have got it. I think, James, you said Ange has come out and said that that's what he intends to do.
Not so much. He didn't say he was going to get guys from out of nowhere kind of thing and B-team guys. He was saying guys who haven't had much football, they has around the squad. So, yeah, I think we'll see about that on Thursday. Yeah,
and on that note, Sinky, who would you like to see? So I'm looking at guys like Scales, who might get a chance, although Taylor's just come back at left back after injury, so it might be that Taylor continues to play. But there may be Scales. We've not seen anything competitively, I don't think, from Uragide or Liam Shaw.
Sure. Yeah.
I wonder if, and they're always in the squad, so Ange must see something in them. I'm saying always in the squad, they weren't in it today. Always usually in the squad.
Apart from today,
yeah. Ayeti, does he get some minutes? Do we rest Kyogo? And the kind of curveball might be somebody like Owen Moffat, who's made some headlines in the pre-season. He's doing really well with the B team, as is Rocco Vata.
Yeah.
But I think he's only 17, so...
But why not? You've never got a better chance.
Oh, really? Why not? Yeah, great experience for these young guys. So, I mean, is there anyone you'd like to see sink in?
Owen Moffat's one for me.
I'll put it this way, to come back to your bit there. I'd much rather see Owen Moffat or Vata than Ajeti because I know about him, and that's all I need to know.
He's not the future, is he?
No. So let's see guys that might be something for him.
You get a look at the boys, and if they do well, I mean, potentially that they can help us through it together. Give them a chance. No, I think Betis are going to do well. I think they're going to play pretty much a second string as well. So get a wee chance to play a European night at Parkhead. Good experience for them. So we definitely need to blood some of the young guys in there.
Yeah. We also spoke about the fact that even as we chat this through just now, excuse me, we would like to see some of these young guys given a chance. But fast forward to Thursday night, when you're in Celtic Park, it should be a sellout, more or less a sellout with the packages. You also, it's counterintuitive, isn't it? But you want to see your strongest side at all times as well, don't you? So you don't want to go in and accept defeat.
You never want to go into a game, with that outlook. But I'd much rather see development than, Ajeti is the perfect example. A guy that might be a more professional striker and more accomplished, more experienced, but not tell me anything that I didn't already know. I'd much rather some young guys in there showing me something. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see how. Or what Ange decides to do on the day. So I'm starting to wrap things up. We're kind of in the kind of latter 10 minutes or so of the show here. What I'd like to do now is just spend just a wee bit of time on Ange in general. So obviously just as a wider subject. So as I'd mentioned earlier on in the show, he was appointed back on the 10th of June. Ange, what's going on here? This is a nonsense. And, we were all in on Eddie Howe, or most of it. Myth wasn't, to be fair to him. But, most of us here and in the wider Celtic fan base were all about Eddie Howe. This unknown Australian who it turns out is coaching the World Cup and different things come in. And obviously, we're falling in love with the guy. He's absolutely just, I think I'd mentioned to Tony outside there, he's such a good fit culturally for Celtic. He just, sound kind of cringe and cheesy.
You just get me?
He just gets it, right? You complete me.
You're right.
Yeah. But he does. He just seems to, I say now, with the benefit of hindsight, you couldn't have picked a better guy for Celtic. Like, listen, football all hinges on success. You can be the great guy, you can speak well, you can get what Celtic means to people, but you've got to win trophies as well. You'll get the first chance to do so on the 19th of December. But I'll come to you first, James. I mean, where are we just now in terms of where you would have expected us to be given the appointment of Ange back on the 10th of June?
You can't really overstate what level of disarray Celtic were in when they'd messed about with how for so long, with one of the most cack-handed pieces of negotiation I've ever seen in business, to let that run on for so long. So for that to fall apart, which when you actually get a bit of the backstory, it's almost inevitable. Celtic had no control over it whatsoever. And then, if we're going to give credit where it's due, very quickly they had Ange was in the running, and it was something like from the Wednesday to the Friday, it was all about Ange. I think it was the Thursday, how the thing fell apart, and then by the Friday, Ange was the hot ticket. And they got the deal over the line. So criticism and credit where it's due in kind of not equal measure, but in measure. So since he's come in, you've just seen this. Like, it was a breath of fresh air. You were at his press conference when he was announced with the guy who signed him, Don Mackay, but it wasn't the guy who signed him, Don Mackay. It was Peter Long.
Don Mackay. Don't mention.
Aye, they just disappeared. So to come in and to actually, Sean Maloney spoke about it before the game today, to so quickly create that bond, and not just to create a bond with fans, but to repair the severed bond with the fans was huge. And it wasn't a cynical ploy, to be, I'm your pal, I'm going to be the great manager of all time, all that stuff. It was just like, here's who I am, here's what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And then we start to see the football, and it's all the football we want to see. And then we see how he deals with the press, and that's how we want to see that dealt with.
Yeah.
And then we see the progress, and then how he takes the knocks of when things don't go so well. And he's like, this is how it's going to be. This is how my teams always go. So where we are in terms of my expectations,
excuse me.
I mean, I just didn't know pre-season, in June anyway, what we were going to get after such a dreadful time under.
Did you fear the worst?
Did I fear the worst? Nah, I mean, I don't really think that way with Celtic, because I think there's always a way through. Lennon is as negative as I've ever been at Celtic that season, last season. And even then, I'm still kind of going, we can win this game, we can get there and all that stuff. So I didn't fear the worst, because I always knew the gap between us and them was a myth. It was never as big as they thought it was. It was a gap, of course. It probably was a 4-point gap, and what have we got? We've got a 4-point gap. So we start to close in on that, and then we can really see what Ange can do for us. You've seen some of the European football we've been playing, and the results haven't quite gone our way, but the football really has gone our way. Yeah. It's exactly what we want to see. I think he's building something bigger than just, winning games. This is the style of football. See what you saw today? It's the style of football. And you go into next year, they'll have been playing that for 12 solid months, and you'll be able to plug in you guys into the system, and it'll really be a joy to watch.
Yeah, and I think it's also very encouraging that Ange, when he talks about progressing in Europe, he could have went out to Leverkusen, for example, shut up shop, 2 banks of 5, all this, be more pragmatic and all that stuff. But his thinking and his general response, and I'm obviously kind of paraphrasing, but he's saying, what would we learn if we go and shut up shop? Because you know what? We've got 6 more, fingers crossed, 6 more Champions League games next season. So do we just shut up shop and just kind of hope for the best and eke out a draw, and we'll see what it takes us? Because players don't learn if you do that. They learn to throw their body in the line. And listen, you could do that for 90 minutes and lose 1-0 anyway. And I think what he's saying is there's a bigger picture at play, to use your term, James. There's a bigger Celtic in Europe at play. And if I keep working with these players, and listen, we're less than 6 months into his system. So I think the progress he's made so far has been incredible. And the signs are there that it's only going to get better. I mean, what's your take on it, Sinky?
He's got the buy-in for the fans. He's got the buy-in for the players about the way he wants to play. It's a great appointment now. Looking at it now, 6 months ago, I was very sceptical about it.
Were you angry? Were you upset?
I wasn't angry. I was just like, the whole Eddie Howe thing, that went on for ages. But now looking at it, he's a complete right fit. Like the way he conducts himself, James mentioned about the press, all that kind of stuff. The way he's got his team playing, he epitomises everything you want in a Celtic manager. That bit of charisma, and he's got it in abundance.
Swagger.
He's got. You need to have that like ego to be a Celtic manager, but be good with it. Still have a sincerity, but be able to kind of conduct yourself in the right way. And he's got that. He really has, and he is. He's going to. I think he's going to take us places.
Places you've never been.
Absolutely, aye, potentially. But the thing is, we get left in an absolute mess.
Yeah.
We brought in, I think it was 12 signings. 12 signings. We mentioned about the fact he's got another 25%, 30% of boys that were kind of halfway out the door as well. Your Ralstons, your Big Tams,
Rogic, Beaton.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So he's done a phenomenal job, absolutely. And I'm excited to see what we're going to do in January in terms of the personnel. Talking about the Japanese boys, I'm not going to try and pronounce their names, but going back...
Please do.
No, I'm not doing that again, right? But judging by that, he's seen these guys, he was in Japan for 3.5 years, so he's seen these guys at close quarters. So I trust him, I trust his judgment completely. So it's exciting times ahead, and hopefully he gets a trophy.
Definitely. Yeah. You'd mentioned ego, but there's various types of ego, and I think it's an understated ego and confidence and charisma, but he's not out there thinking he's the big I am, nor does he want to be the centre of attention. For him, it's all about building something and focusing on the team. And to your point, Slinky, I think we've all bought in hook, line and sinker. We're setting ourselves up here for a fall, but even like this afternoon, Paddy from the show, he was at the game, and he sent us a video clip that he took from the stands at Tannadice, and it's Ange coming to meet the fans as he does after away games, and they're losing their mind. And all he's doing is coming out and giving it a bit of, work in the crowd.
2 songs now.
A pair of songs. Well, a name like Postecoglou, they fitted it in twice. And he picks up a scarf. Somebody's thrown a scarf onto the turf at Tannadice. He's picked up the scarf. Hope it doesn't say it in dodgy on it. He's picked up the scarf and held it aloft. And they've just lost their minds. And everyone's bought into it. I posted it on Twitter earlier on, and it's something like 300 or 400 likes on it in a very short space of time. And I think we've just bought into it hook, line and sinker. And actually, there's ups and downs, and we've talked about the Ange roller coaster. Paddy likes to call it the Ange train. But there will be ups and downs when you're going through such a transformation. But there's no doubt it's such a breath of fresh air, and it's been a really exciting time to be a fan. And I just think long may that continue. You
talk about the kind of system changing for Europe. I think we're quite sceptical because it's with Rodgers. I think that was a big
7-1 at PSG and all that.
I think we're really, because he didn't want to change. He was quite, but Rodgers has got an ego.
Huge, yeah.
You better believe it.
I know, but I think the way Ange conducts himself, his ego has a sincerity about it.
Yeah.
And it's not a big bravado, I'm the big I am. I'm
self-belief.
It is self-belief. Yeah. And you see him in interviews, and you've obviously reading his book, he's confident in his own, but he's confident in his ability, and he believes in himself so much. He's so self-assured as a manager, and I think that's a great quality to have.
He is 100% confident in his system and his approach, and he won't bend on it, and I think it's great to see.
But I think what you're saying there about Rodgers completely ties in with how he played in Leverkusen. He's training those guys to play PSG at home next season with that approach. He's not training them to try and, like you say, eke out a win in Leverkusen. He's saying, this is a system and we don't want you approaching PSG. Rodgers just went, I'm a brilliant manager. Here's a bit of formation. Off you go. That didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
Because they were so cold. It was just like cold knowledge for them.
And I think it also shows that Ange wants to be here to build something. He doesn't intend to be here and jump ship to Leicester or Villa anytime soon, those kind of moves. And I think he sees a bigger picture for Celtic, and I think that's got to be really encouraging. So what I'll do, we're just starting to wrap things up for today. James, I'll come to you first. What's your final thoughts and your hopes for these January fixtures?
December.
That's what I meant. Good job you're here.
I'm like, I haven't looked at January fixtures. So I want a break.
Hold on a minute. Yes, December, of course.
We go again. Just as I've covered, a lot of fixtures and not a lot of time. But what that also does is it allows you to build momentum. Each win pushes on to the next one. Thursday's a wee bit of an interruption because it'll be change of personnel, but back into next weekend, and then it's midweek, weekend, all the way through. So use momentum, get the wins, and just push on. Maximum points are required, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I think it's 7 games in the next 24 days. So what's your hopes, expectations for that, and any final thoughts?
As I mentioned, it needs to be maximum points. We need to go to this game on 2nd of January close as we can. I'm more really worried about what they're doing on the other side of at the fence. It's all about us. So all we can do, and obviously is beat the teams up in front of us and get through December. We are a relatively strong squad. Hopefully stay avoid more injuries and get the guys back there. They're obviously out at the moment, but I want a clean sweep. I want us to kick on, keep the momentum going. As you said, Deaths and Thursday's a bit of an interruption. But it's also a chance for the young guys. But I want a good December. I want to go into January with something to play for.
Yeah, definitely. So clean sweep's the plan.
Yep.
So that just about wraps things up for us on ACSOM's Charity Weekender. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in for us today, and also across the last 24 hours or so. There's still a few shows to go tonight. In addition, we'd also like to say a big thank you to Paul, John and the team here for the great work they're doing this weekend for the charities. Remember, you can still make a donation via the GoFundMe, and the link to that is currently the pinned tweet on ACSOM's Twitter account. Any donations will go a long way towards supporting the great work that the parishes of St Mary's and St Alphonsus do, and every single penny is really appreciated. Finally, we'll have the audio recording for this one live tomorrow at the CELTICExchange.com. But in the meantime, and as always, thanks for tuning in.